For more than 30 years, Western Computer has provided ERP, CRM, and business intelligence solutions to help businesses operate efficiently, compete, and grow. Serving companies across North America, we specialize in Microsoft Dynamics 365, Power Platform, and Azure integrated solutions for distribution, manufacturing, home building, wine and spirits distribution, rental management, and more. As a certified cloud solution provider, we've helped hundreds of companies digitally transform and transition to the cloud. Our reputation for excellence is earned by continuously innovating to maximize our customers' technology investments. And when it comes to service, every customer is treated to an elite support experience from over 160 senior-level experts and dedicated customer success managers. Are you ready to transition to the cloud? Contact us today at www.westerncomputer.com.
Please welcome our next speaker, Ryan Pollyniak, a Customer Success Manager. Today, he will be presenting Nav to BC, Upgrade Strategies. Make this your last upgrade. Please stick around after Ryan's session for a live Q&A.
Hi, everybody. Ryan Pollyniak here. Thanks for joining my DynamicsCon session. And thank you very much for voting for my DynamicsCon session so that I get to present today. Very much appreciated. And what we're going to be covering today is upgrading NAV to Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central. There are several strategies to take and lots of questions to answer. But at the end of the day, it should be your last upgrade project once you get over the hump, if done properly. So let me take a moment to introduce myself. My name is Ryan Pollyniak. I am the Customer Success Manager at Western Computer. I live in Alpharetta, Georgia, not too far from one of the Microsoft offices, not too far from where Navision started way back when. And at Western Computer, I work with a lot of our NAV customers who are making the decision of where do we go next with our ERP system. The newest version of Microsoft Dynamics NAV is called Business Central, and it's available, in the cloud and on-premise. How do we get there? And that's really what we're going to be covering today. I've been doing Microsoft Dynamics for over 13 years now. I've got a good broad range of knowledge to draw upon. And Western Computer's got a tremendous amount of experience upgrading NAV customers to Business Central. So we've got some insight into the questions you need to answer as you approach this. Business Central. What is it? So I mentioned briefly, for years and years, Microsoft Dynamics NAV was called Dynamics NAV based on Navision, which was a company or a product that Microsoft bought in the early 2000s. So they bought several ERP solutions, Solomon and Axapta and GP and Navision, and they made that Dynamics SL, Dynamics AX, Dynamics GP, and Dynamics NAV. Well, for years, Dynamics NAV was upgrading every year or every couple of years early on, and then it went to an annual release cycle. Well, the latest release is now called Dynamics 365 Business Central, and it has been since April of 2019, so a couple of years now almost. And so the question everybody's asking is, well, how do I go to Business Central? And I felt like this slide was a good foundational place to start because I find many of our NAV customers don't know exactly what Business Central is or what Dynamics 365 is. And let me answer that. Dynamics 365 is a collection of applications from Microsoft, including Dynamics 365 Business Central, which you see in the middle of this diagram. You've got really two main ERP offerings, that AX product line, which is now Dynamics 365 for finance and supply chain management, you see over here on the left side. And then you've got Dynamics 365 Business Central, which was formerly NAV. By the way, if you have questions along the way, feel free to type them in the chat, in the DynamicsCon chat. And we're not going to answer them along the way, but we'll answer them at the end. So, this is for your value, of course. Feel free to ask questions we'll address them as we have time at the end. So we're really focused on Business Central today. Over here on the right side, you'll see Dynamics 365 for sales and customer service and field service. These are customer engagement apps. And the reason I'm kind of mentioning these other apps is I hear a lot of confusion out there. What is Dynamics 365? What is Business Central? Are they the same thing? Are they different? Business Central is one of many Dynamics 365 apps. And of course, all of these, you're going to have some fantastic integration with Microsoft 365, formerly Office, and then the Power Platform, which is a suite of tools from Microsoft to do no-code mobile apps or workflow or visualize your data with Power BI. So Business Central, at its core, it is Dynamics NAV. It has all the same functionality that you're used to, starting with financial management, accounting, all your sales and purchasing. Operations includes, service or manufacturing, production, your warehousing, your inventory management. All of that core NAV functionality exists in Business Central. It is the latest version of Dynamics NAV. It's got new features that have been added along the way, and depending on just how old your NAV version is, that may be quite a lot of new features, or maybe just a few. So what we're really going to cover today is not a deep dive into the feature differences. And, we've got some tools that we can give you to go research those, but they're vast and they're varying depending on what version you're coming from. What we're really going to cover today is how to get to this latest version and how to make that decision. One key difference with the latest version is it's all web-based, web client only. There's no more role-tailored client. For those of you who are on Nav 2013 to even the very earliest versions of Business Central, still had the option to do a full-fledged client called the role-tailored client. The latest versions are web client only, or you go download an app, iPhone, Android, tablet, you take your pick, go out to the app store, you download an app, and you access Business Central through an app or through a web browser. So it's full web client now. Let's talk a little bit more about what's changed. Obviously, you've got some feature enhancements along the way, but let's talk about the core fundamental principles. And I already mentioned, really, Nav 2018 and Nav 2019 is where we made the shift from calling this application NAV to now calling it Business Central. And that started with the April 2018 release of Business Central. So you've got Business Central in the cloud and you've got Business Central on-premise. Really, either one you can upgrade to. It's still NAV at its core, but what you're going to be doing is deciding, do I want to deploy this as a true software as a service application, or do I want to host it myself? And that's what Microsoft means when they say on-premise. It's really a customer-hosted model of deploying NAV. This third bullet point, inline versus extension customization, very important concept. We've got a slide on that that we're going to talk about here shortly. And that's what drives the ability for you to do some automatic upgrading going forward. I mentioned there's no more role-tailored client. It's all browser-based, it's mobile app, and all the feature enhancements are going to be rolled out to that web app, not to the role-tailored client on older versions. I mentioned you can deploy this as a true SaaS software. You can deploy it on your own server if you want, or you can go get your own Azure VM or host it, private hosting, and all of that. The latter is included in what Microsoft calls on-premise. Upgrades. They're going to be twice a year, April and October. If you're in that cloud model, the true SaaS model, subscribing to Business Central from Microsoft, upgrades are going to be mandatory. You have to do them. You get some warning. You can address any kind of pending issues ahead of that upgrade with your partner, but they're going to be mandatory and they're going to be automatic. So you can schedule that and get it in your sandbox and test it and upgrade quite easily. For on-premise customers or customer-hosted NAV deployments, upgrades will be seamless in that you can apply the upgrades very, very easily, but they won't be automatic. Now, versions of NAV have typically had a 5-year mainstream support life cycle. And I've seen a cadence of upgrading every 3 to 5 years for NAV customers. Some have taken much longer because of the cost involved and are on much older versions. Well, newer versions, if you stay on premise, the support lifecycle will be 18 months. That sounds like an awful short time, but upgrades are very, very easy to apply for an on-premise customer. So we'd probably recommend anticipating an upgrade a year or so for an on-premise customer, and then your cloud customers, you'll get 2 upgrades a year automatically, whether you want them or not. Feature differences, there are a ton of them, and if you're coming from, Nav 2009, that list will be very long. If you're coming from Nav 2017, that list will be much shorter. But in any case, we've got some ways to number one recommendation: talk to your partner about it. What's new in the latest versions, and more importantly, what's new that might actually impact my business or be relevant to my business, because your partner knows your business. They can help you understand, oh yeah, this would be nice. Maybe we could eliminate some customization or introduce some new business processes. And I mentioned, for customers who still have the role-tailored client, Microsoft is not making any improvements there. You want to get to that full web client rollout with extensions, all extension-based. That's where Microsoft every 6 months is pumping out the new features and the new updates and allowing you to stay current. This is a really important concept. Everybody's been doing CAL code for extensions for years and years in NAV. And for those of you who don't know what CAL code is, the important story is that it gets into the core of NAV, meaning that you're modifying the core nav code to introduce new business functionality. Standard way to do customizations up until very recently. So what this meant was that Microsoft couldn't, if you went in and did a customization in NAV 2016, Microsoft couldn't just give you Nav 2017 and tell you to overwrite it, because all your customization would be gone. And this is what's caused customers to fall behind on versions and have to do expensive upgrades and wait for new features, because all that custom code had to be upgraded. And this was eliminated October 2019 with the release of Business Central version 15. Now, Business Central version 14, this was still available, but in 15, you cannot touch the core code of NAV. You should not touch the core code of NAV. I think in the on-premise versions, there are still some ways to do that. So be careful of getting, having a suggestion that, well, yeah, you can still modify the core code. Very unrecommended way to go about this, because Microsoft is looking at Business Central version 15 forward as a static application with customizations created externally in what are called extensions. So extensions, what are they? Well, they started coming out in Nav 2017 or so, the idea of events and extensions. So an event is something that calls a certain event in a system. Might be something like a sales order getting posted, for instance. And that can call a custom piece of code that's external to the system in extensions. And I promise I'm telling you this for a reason. What that allows us to do is to create custom functionality, which every once in a while is required. It's always good to use the out-of-the-box functionality in Business Central or any other ERP application. But the ability to create custom extensions now allows us to create that custom functionality without blocking our upgrade path and without locking us into a version and without creating an expensive upgrade down the road. So we create that AL code, is what it's called now, to execute your custom functionality. That AL code is called when an event happens, and it gives you the functionality that you need. The reason I'm going through this time to explain CAL versus AL code is because it's so fundamental to upgrading NAV and to the approach that you're going to take. Because once you get all of your customizations, and this includes add-ons, any add-on that has objects embedded in your database has to be an extension now. Once you get to extensions, you can do automatic upgrades, or if you're on premise, do your manually applied upgrade very, very easily. And that's really at the core of getting over the hump and getting to a point where you can update very easily. There will be, if you see this bottom bullet point, that really the bottom two, availability of creating an extension in Business Central is going to rely upon Microsoft putting that event. In some cases, when you're moving from a very customized version of Nav to Business Central, it might not just be take all of my code and replicate what it does, because you have some limitations there. But your partner, particularly if they're experienced with moving companies from customized versions of Nav to an extension-based environment, they're going to be able to help you through that. It might involve redesigning a customization in another way, or altering a business process, or hopefully using some native functionality that exists that didn't previously exist, that drove you to create that customization in the first time. Maybe it's using some of the other Dynamics 365 applications to your advantage to leverage their native functionality as opposed to creating that inside of Business Central. And that's something that we've seen a lot with our customer base in the Microsoft Dynamics 365 customer engagement stack of applications. For instance, a business who might have customized the service module to the nth degree in Business Central, and then they look at what's out of the box with Dynamics 365 field service nowadays and say, oh, we could do most of this with a core product, albeit a different one than the ERP system. So you have to stay a bit more nimble with this next and last upgrade project, and move into a solution stack that's going to allow you to take advantage of what Microsoft has to offer. So strategies. These are really the three core strategies as far as we see it for upgrading to Business Central. You've got really in the column titled complete, you've got a traditional upgrade, so to speak, meaning we want to take all of our customizations and all of our transactional history, and we're going to move it all into the new version. And what's driving this is more a desire to get to the new version, to not be on an old version, to get operating system support and to be on a supported version, maybe to take advantage of a handful of new features. But fundamentally, we like what our system does. We don't need to rethink it. And this is a talk you have to have with your partner again. But some companies fit into this, and I've got slides on each of these. A fresh start upgrade is more a concept of, well, let's bring all of our data forward, all of our transactional history. And let me get this out there now. Nobody's going to lose any transactional history. It's just a matter of what you do with it. So with the fresh start, you say, well, I want to keep my transactional history, detailed transactional history, subledgers, customer ledgers and item ledgers, and all of the detailed web of data. I want to bring that forward into the new version, but maybe leave all of my modifications behind because they were designed 15 years ago around a different set of business processes, and our business has changed, or we didn't use our modifications, or there's some native functionality in Business Central now that can replace that customization even better. So fresh start is kind of in the middle, and then you've got a new start on the right side. And a new start is, there's no technical upgrade here, meaning we're not taking your historical transactional detailed history and moving it into the new database and moving your modifications just like they are into the new database. Instead, what we're doing is we're starting with some limited data, master records and things like that, and then we're rethinking how your customizations are done and which ones are necessary, and how even your core system is set up, not just your customizations. And the table that I put in here, it's more to help understand where's the effort going to be. Well, if you're way on the left in the complete upgrade, it's going to be a developer, mostly on your partner side, crunching ones and zeros and converting your code into extensions, migrating your data in and making everything work. And then they're going to hand that database off for user acceptance testing, and they're going to go live. There's not a whole lot of requirement on the end user side there, more so on the developer side until you get to that testing phase. The fresh start, it's a little bit more in the middle, and then all the way to the new start, where there will be more of an effort required from your internal team because you're really rethinking how the system is set up. And you've got to have input on analysis and design decisions, and you've got to go through some more training, and you might have new processes. So that's kind of the flow, from it being a purely developer-led technical upgrade all the way to more of a consultative rethinking of your system and reanalysis of business processes. So let's look at the first one in more depth, the complete upgrade. We look at, here are the questions I ask, right? It's, do you like your customizations? Do you trust your transactional history? Do you find a bunch of unused modifications in your system? Let's think, how long ago was your system set up? If it was 3 years ago, there's a pretty good chance that it still meets your business goals. Because when you do an implementation of an ERP system, it's matching the feature set of what's available to your business requirements. Well, if that happened 15 years ago and your business has changed 3 times and the software has definitely changed, 15 times, maybe it's a good time to rethink some of these things. But when it comes to customers who fit the complete upgrade, and these are not hard and fast rules. I almost reconsidered even putting the versions in there because what's more important is some of the questions that I just asked. But in general, if you're coming from a newer version of NAV, maybe not a ton of customization, and you love your core current functionality, and I'm not talking about just modification. I'm talking about your core setups, locations, inventory costing, dimensions, all of these things, they're fundamental to your ERP implementation. And when you implement and you take everything and you move it forward, you're going to remain boxed into those initial decisions to some degree. You can adjust a bit. So this is more what you guys have been going through if you've ever done a Nav upgrade. This is what upgrades have always been in the NAV world. Take what I have and move it to the new version. Lower effort on the customer part, higher effort on the development part, and then you go through user acceptance testing and you go live. Pros and cons here. It's nice to have your full detailed transactional history in the ERP, but you don't need it anymore. There are tools out there, and we're going to talk more about this for, pinging that history and even reporting against it year over year with trend analysis without it being in your ERP. There's a guy on Twitter the other day saying that if he has somebody ask him to bring all their transactional history into the new version, that he's going to tell them we don't do that anymore. Go find someone else to do it. Most partners will be flexible and take this approach if you want to, but I'm trying to illustrate the point that you don't need to bring all that data into the new version of Nav anymore, into Business Central. Bringing all of your transactional history into the system is going to make your system slower. If you go to Business Central Cloud, you have data storage limits that you start to have to pay for if you surpass a certain limit. So that's a con for bringing that data in. And then again, it boxes you into what you've done in terms of core configuration. I will say still, this upgrade approach does fit some customers. We're executing several of these right now, and we're set to execute more. Again, lower customization level, maybe implemented in the last few years. Business hasn't changed. I kind of just want to bring forward what I have, make it my last upgrade project, and move to the cloud. Next, that kind of hybrid approach, what we call a fresh start upgrade. All your customizations, we're going to leave behind. We're going to start with a new database, and you have to bring your tables in. If you have data that was derived from custom code, right? You're going to have to bring those tables into the new version of BC. but the interface and the pages and everything else, all those customizations are going to be gone. And this gives you the advantage of having your full transactional history, which some people like. And it also gives you the advantage of doing an analysis and a gap fit to rethink your customization. You'll be a little bit more limited in terms of decision making with your core setups. And when I say setups, I'm not talking about custom code. I'm talking about how your system is configured. Again, dimensions, locations, inventory costing. That's still going to have to be largely the same since you're bringing all of that transactional history forward. But you get a chance to do another fit gap and rethink, do I need those mods I had? Or do I need, maybe my business has changed. Maybe I sold a business unit or fundamentally changed what I do. There's a whole host of reasons to take this approach. It's a little bit more in the middle because we're going to need some customer effort on the front end to undergo analysis and to undergo designing how you want the system customizations to work, you won't need as much decision making because your system configurations will still be the same. When we move that data forward, we're moving your configurations forward. Development effort, pretty low typically, unless you rebuild a bunch of customizations, and that should go without saying. If you've got some complex modifications that have to be redesigned, there will be a development effort. Who fits? Again, relatively newer versions. I'd say, if you're on a much older version with a ton of data, leave it behind. Go maybe take the new start approach. There's a ton of value there, and that's the conversation you have to have with your partner. What value am I getting out of doing a complete upgrade or a fresh start or a new start upgrade? And each company's story is different. So, what customizations? Maybe I'm upgrading from Nav 2013, and I want deferred revenue, and I want positive pay, and I want to be able to preview an invoice when I post it. Well, those customizations are no longer needed because all that stuff's been added since then. We can ditch them, we can leave them, we can configure the core product, and we can move forward. So you kind of get the idea here, right? Your configurations are the same in a fresh start. Your transactional history is all there, so you can look it up in the ERP. So you're going to rethink your modifications. If you're happy, you've got to be happy with your core system to take this approach as well. There's no two ways about it. Customizations are really on the fringe of the core functionality. And if you just absolutely have to have that transactional history, full transactional history, not just posted, purchase and sales headers and master records, but your full transactional detail history, then you may want to consider this as well. This is dynamic, no pun intended, conversation with your partner, depending on your needs. New start approach. I'm finding nowadays with the shift to extensions and with the shift to Business Central and all the other available Dynamics 365 apps, this is fitting more and more customers. And this is also has to do with data, all the great things we could do with data now. So this is where you just bring in a little bit of data. Items, vendors, customers, maybe some common configuration settings. Keep that pretty minimal. Opening balances, you're going to need your open AR and open AP and your open inventory balances. All your detailed transactional history either stays behind in a legacy ERP for lookups, or we can put it in a data warehouse. And we're going to talk about that next because everyone wants to know, what about my data? All custom objects are left behind. Your tables are left behind. Any kind of custom code units. And we're going to really rethink everything. And that's why it lends itself to being more customer focused on the front end. We need to understand on a very detailed level, business process, what's changed? What lessons have you learned from using Nav for the last 10 years? This is hugely valuable information when you go to upgrade because you have an opportunity with a new start to rethink that all. That business unit you sold off, you don't need any more of that functionality, or even the core configuration settings that maybe you regret sometimes having made. And if you could go back and change it, you would do it. This is an opportunity to do that as well. So high customer effort, a lot of consulting effort from your partner, maybe not so much from developers because we're going to try to leverage core functionality, native functionality, maybe peripheral Dynamics 365 apps, Power Automate or Power Apps or Dynamics 365 CRM, which is now called Customer Engagement, and minimize writing modifications. But if we have to write some modifications, they'll be in extensions and they won't block your upgrade path. And that's critical to understand. Who fits this? Anyone classic client older than RTC? I know technically, yes, I'm going to have people say, well, you can upgrade. You can go through the iterations of moving your modifications and data through the years and get it to the new version. I really start to question the value of customers that are implemented that long ago, trying to replicate exactly what you have now and going through the pain of moving your customizations into extensions, which is essentially a rewrite where you have the opportunity to rethink all of that. The biggest pushback I get is, what about my data? And we'll talk about that next. So, it happens all the time. We talk to a customer and, well, we were on Nav 3.7 and we upgraded to Nav 2009, and then we upgraded again to NAV 2015. That means if these are traditional upgrades, all of that core setup was done 15 years ago. It was your business processes 15 years ago. It was a solution set when you went and did your gap fit, which is looking at the software and saying, where are the functional gaps for my organization? That was done 15 years ago. So at this point, doing another upgrade, you're really starting to stretch, the shelf life of that implementation, where getting back into the mindset of let's make this what we want it to be. It's a great opportunity to do that when you upgrade to Business Central, since you have to rewrite your modifications and extensions anyway. You get the opportunity to, rethink your dimensions and your locations and your inventory costing, and maybe that inventory costing issue that's been sitting in your system for the last 15 years because you couldn't get the data gremlins out. You can move all that out and start over with good, best practices and move forward with a system that's meant for your business as it's humming and working today. What are the pros? All of your posting groups and everything, all the settings can be, reimagined. That's a big deal, depending on the customer, of course. Some people are perfectly happy with what they have. Eliminating that corrupt data, eliminating unnecessary customizations. And, we're doing this more and more. We're doing it mostly, I would say, the complete upgrade or the new starts. The fresh start here and there will fit, but it's probably becoming less and less of a fit. And then, what are the cons? Well, internal effort. Do you guys have the bandwidth to rethink all of these things? And are people going to be able to devote their time? They have day jobs running the business, so sometimes that's an issue. And then cost, maybe not. Depending on your modification level and how far you're coming, an as-is upgrade, doing extensions, but not rethinking any of your functionality, you're going to start to see that that cost has increased. Whereas taking the new start approach, you might start to see that cost come back down to more of a reasonable level. In some cases, it might be more. It depends, but the value is tremendous. But what about my data? Big important question here. Data is central to everybody's business. It's central to your upgrade strategy as well. The bottom line is you don't have to keep that data in your ERP anymore. If you're doing a complete upgrade, or if you're doing a fresh start upgrade, you're going to keep your data in the ERP, and that's fine. And we do these all the time. And we've gone over some of the reasons that you may or may not take one of those approaches. But if you go the new start route and you want to say, okay, I'm going to take all this 200 gigs or 50 gigs of data from Nav 2009, I'm going to put it in a data repository of some sort. Lots of options here. You put it in there are add-on reporting tools that have databases that you can put the data in. Put it in an Azure database, and use Power BI to write reports to go ping your old data, or leave your transactional history in your legacy ERP system. Many companies want to retire that server, and that's understandable. So, we recommend really migrating in master records, opening balances, stuff you need to rethink your solution, and then the core limited historical data, posted invoice headers and posted sales and purchase invoice headers, inventory, maybe your usage and your inventory balances, if you need that for demand planning, or you could do demand planning outside the application as well. But we don't recommend moving all that subledger, your customer ledgers and item ledgers and applied entries and everything else. There's an example here, bringing in payments to apply to those invoices and making that all match up. Tremendously time intensive and not recommended in a new start approach. So, moving all that data to a SQL data warehouse in Azure, spinning that up, with Azure SQL as a service, or putting a VM up there with a SQL database. All your data from your new system can live there as well. And you can use something like Power BI to report on that data even if your legacy data, your historical data is in your old system, you can report against your new data as well and do your trend analysis year over year. So there's not really a good reason to bring all that detailed data in most cases these days. And you clean out Business Central, you get your lookups are much faster because you don't have all that data bogging you down. You're not going to be hitting data limits in the cloud. And then, of course, the whole reason we did the new start approach in the beginning was likely to make decisions about your core setups. And then, what do you need to do? Keep your old nav system or not? Usually we find out the answer to that is not. So this is a very, important conversation to have with your partner. What are we going to do with my data? Every partner knows you need it. It can't just disappear. That doesn't mean you have to bring it to the newest version with you. So, Power BI tool. If you aren't using this on NAV already, it's a good time to dip your toe in, and your partner can help you with this. So, Power BI is a data visualization tool from Microsoft, and you can connect it. Really, going back pretty far with Nav, you need a gateway to do that, or you can connect it very easily once you get to Business Central Cloud. In any case, it helps you visualize your data and in charts and graphs, even row and column reports, and export it to Excel or PDF and email it. Power BI is an amazing reporting tool, and we're seeing customers use this to visualize that archived legacy data that's been put in Azure that we didn't bring forward with us. So, last concept here: licensing considerations, and this is important. First concept: Nav. Every version of Nav, anything called NAV anything, was a concurrent user model, meaning you could license, let's say you have 100 user licenses, and you could set up 1,000 users in your system, but only 100 will be able to get in at any time. It's concurrent licensing. And those days are gone. Business Central is now named user licensing. Every single person who's going to be a user set up in the system needs a named user license, whether you're on premise or in the cloud. So Microsoft has helped here, though. They know that you, as a Nav customer, you're going to need more named users than you need concurrent, because you might have one person clock out and somebody else clog in, they use the same user. So what they're doing, keep your maintenance up to date, and you're going to get a 1-to-3 conversion for all of those Nav users that were purchased before May 1st, 2019. So that means if you have 30 NAV concurrent users, you're now going to have 90 when you migrate to on-premise. If you had 30 NAV users on April 30th of 2019, and you bought 30 more after that May 1st deadline, you'll get a 1-to-3 conversion on those 30, but not on the ones that you bought after May 1st. Nav maintenance price will be the same as long as you stay current. You're on a protected list price. Unless you actually buy more users at some point, that will not change. Another great reason is to keep your NAV licensing current, or your maintenance current. SQL will have to match the new user count. So if you have 90 users now and you had 30 before, you'll need the 90 SQL access cows. And then, if you have ISV solutions that are licensed based on how many Nav users you have, there are some of them out there. They say, if you go from 50 users to 60 Nav users, well, you also have to pay for the ISV. That ISV is an add-on solution. You need to talk to your add-on solutions and to your partner and see if anything like that is coming. This is super important. If you're current on your NAV maintenance, you've been able for quite a while now to get a 40% discount on Business Central Cloud. Because when you move to Business Central Cloud, and I'm not talking about on-premise at the moment, you switch from paying maintenance, you switch to a subscription-based model where per user per month, you can add or remove users whenever you want. And you, as a Nav customer, you get a 40% discount off of what somebody else can go buy Business Central Cloud for. And they're doing that to honor the maintenance that you've been paying for all these years. But a better deal, and one that your partner will have certainly made you aware of, is the Csp Ep Renewal Offer from Microsoft. Every Nav customer should take advantage of this. Started June of last year, and it's going through June 30th of this year. When I say every customer should take advantage of it, there's no downside to the NAV CSP Ep Renewal Offer. It came from Microsoft. It's a fantastic offer. You have to execute it within 30 days of your renewal date. And what it does is it says, you as a Nav customer, let's say you pay $12,000 a year in maintenance, you can continue to pay that maintenance for this renewal and 2 additional renewals. You don't have to pay it annually anymore. You can now pay it month to month, which can be a nice cash flow bonus this year even. If your maintenance is due March 30th, you can take advantage of the CSP offer and you can pay that month to month. But even bigger deal, you get a giant discount on Business Central Cloud going forward for those 3 years. There's no downside. Make sure your partner is helping you take advantage of this within 30 days of your renewal. So that's it. Any questions, please put them in the DynamicsCon chat. I'm glad to answer them. It's been fun presenting, and I'm looking forward to helping out and answering any questions you have. Again, my name's Ryan from Western Computer. My contact information is on the screen. All right. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining the session today. Got lots of questions that have been coming through in the comments, and I have been answering a lot of them as I go. So I can't say that, I've got a ton of those left that have gone unaddressed, but I do want to cover a few of them. And I think that Jonathan brought up a really good point, or a really good general strategy type question. He's working with a customer and said, well, they've got all these modifications and they don't trust their data, and there's a big cost barrier there to get them upgraded, and that's totally understandable. It's not an enviable place to be in, right? But if you're in that situation, you've got some decisions to make. It can be more expensive to try to bring all of that forward, all of those mods, and all of that data forward, than it is to really just re-implement your system and start with your opening balances and your master records and start with a fresh analysis. And that also comes with the need to really rethink what do you need from a modification standpoint. Are these being are these requests from the user base that are nice to haves? Is it the way that the old ERP system worked, and you're trying to upgrade, or you're trying to, I should say, enhance Business Central to do the same thing that the old ERP system did? If you're in that situation, you've got to think long and hard about the cost benefit. Do you really want to try to rewrite all those mods? And definitely you don't want to bring the data forward if you don't trust it. So it's really a re-implementation scenario. And then the onus is going to be on the customer to make decisions of what's important enough can we use native functionality? Can we change our processes a bit? Can we maybe use some certified add-ons? So that's a great conversation to have with your partner. I'm sure they're well equipped to knock that out for you. So I've got a lot of questions piling in here. So there was a question about data. By the way, Microsoft is compressing data in Business Central, and going forward, they're doing a lot to make sure that that's not as big of an issue. There's an 80 gig limit, but your data will be compressed when you do that upgrade. So there are options there to talk to your partner about, because I saw a couple questions about data come in. Let's see, what else do we have here? The CSP Ep offer, I see Sabrina made a mention of that. Not sure if Microsoft will extend that. They really did it, from June 30th to June 30th to capture one renewal for everybody, so everybody's got a shot at it. They may do that. I'm not sure. So let's see here. Which upgrade method is best for bringing in a lot of previous bill of materials? Well, bill of materials, I mean, if you're happy with your bill of materials, you can upgrade, you can migrate those in using Rapid Start, really with any of the upgrade methods. Your bill of materials are going to be, that's more of a static record. You can bring that in through with any one of them. Let's see, how do you move inventory usage without moving the item ledger? Now we're getting a little bit deeper than I probably want to answer, Ted, because I'm not sure the answer to that question. inventory usage without moving the item ledger, I can say that if you're going to take a new start approach, you're going to move your opening inventory balance over. But all the subledger with that inventory usage information is going to be left behind. If you're doing a more traditional, a complete upgrade, where you're moving all of your records forward, then it comes with you. I think that's really the bottom line there. Let's see. Yep, and Sean mentioned a really good tip here. The 5-year plan, not a hard line, but after 5 years, it's a good time to rethink requirements. And this is something that gets missed a lot. Upgrading in 5 years and then upgrading again and keeping that initial design that was designed around your initial business requirements, and not just your own requirements have changed. The product has changed. So there's all kinds of new feature functionality, and your gap fit's going to look much different now than it did 5 or 10 or 15 years ago. So I do agree with Sean. Not a hard line, but it depends. How much has your business changed? Do you still do the same thing that you did 10 years ago? System working well for you? Are there new features in Dynamics BC that you can take advantage of? Or even in the greater CE stack, the CRM stack, maybe you did something custom in Nav previously. I've run across this a lot lately. You've done something custom in Nav previously, but now you've got a CRM side application in Dynamics 365 customer engagement that can meet the requirements out of the box. And you look at leveraging that native functionality as opposed to continuing to customize an older ERP system. So let's see. Can always import. Yep, Dom, thank you, Brian, for helping out. There were some of the questions. I'm scrolling through as we speak. What happens after the CSP EP offer? That's a good question. It's not documented by Microsoft yet. We all imagine that, and what I've told all my customers is probably going to go to the list price, whatever it is, for Business Central, and that's in 3 years. So let's say your renewal is today, and you do the CSP deal, and you've got another, you've got then this year and 2 more years under that CSP pricing, and after that, you're probably going to go to the list subscription price is my guess, but it's not officially documented. In any case, that CSP deal is really good. It keeps things very open for you and keeps your options open. Experience with migrating NAV 2016 on-premise to Business Central. Marco, all these concepts apply for that scenario. It really depends on the details. If they're happy with everything and the modifications fit their business, or maybe there aren't many modifications and they trust their historical data, maybe you use some of the upgrade tools and you migrate them that way. Otherwise, maybe you do the fresh start or the new start that I mentioned. Does Microsoft ever give special offers to companies on old versions, not on maintenance? I won't say never, Ted. I haven't seen it. It's typically one or the other. It's either, get a quote through your partner to, there are a couple options. You can get a quote from your partner to, renew your maintenance. You're going to pay penalties. You're going to have to go back 3 years and pay 19%, and then another year in advance. Typically, that if your enhancement plan has expired, you're going to pay quite a bit to renew that, and that would then afford you the ability to upgrade, and you still have to get an upgrade project scoped by your partner and execute that. So it's quite an expensive proposition. If you're, the alternative is you look at subscribing new to Business Central, but you miss out on some of the discounts, like the from SA 40% discount or the CSP EP renewal offer that I mentioned. So you'll miss out on those, but it's typically going to be offset because you don't have to renew all that maintenance. You want to go through those options, or even if you want to stay on premise, is it a better idea for your organization to just buy a new perpetual license rather than renewing your maintenance? It could be. It really depends on the numbers there, but I would work with your partner to go through the 3 options. What if I subscribe to a Business Central? What if I buy a net new license? And what if I renew my maintenance? And you can decide from there. Let's see, data migration questions.
Is there a better, the question here from Nikolai is, in general, is there a better solution than Rapid Start for data migration? I don't think I'm particularly qualified to answer that one, Nikolai. You've probably got somebody in your partner organization, that can help with that one. Let's see. We're in the process of the Csp Ep. Okay, great. All of today's sessions will be here. Great. Could Csp Ep discount be used on top of not-for-profit pricing? Harry, I would imagine so. It's a renewal offer, and Microsoft's intent with this offer is to migrate on-premise Dynamics NAV customers to the cloud. And thanks, Patrick, for chipping in there, for Nikolai. But there's no, I wouldn't see that Microsoft would prevent a nonprofit from executing the Csp Ep offer. Can't say that I have experience doing that, but it's in all likelihood it works the same way. All right, great questions. Thanks for the interactiveness. Makes this a lot easier. So I don't see anything else that's popped in for now. Big thanks to everybody for joining. I know that everybody's got day jobs and this is taking some time out of your day, but hopefully it was educational and informative. I've tried to gear it that way, and Dynamics partner community is fantastic. I'm sure that each one of you can pick your partner's brains on some of these topics and get some good answers. There's no double discount for NFP. So thanks, Jeff, for clearing that up. I don't think it's as much a discount on the license as it is for the renewal piece of it, Jeff. So maybe you have familiarity with that. I'm not sure. Okay, well, that's really it. Thank you very much, everybody. Enjoy the rest of the conference. I'll be logging in and seeing some of the other sessions. Thank you very much.